Welcome to the Titans Time Podcast, your Tennessee Titans podcast for the Pigskin Podcast Network. My name is Tanner Staggs, and joining me, as always, my brother Tyler Staggs. And it is Week 8, so we've got an exciting episode today. Tennessee Titans are traveling up to Indianapolis to face the Colts, a team that they've got the lead on in the division right now. They've in the series for this season. They beat them. What week was that? I can't even remember.
Week 3.
Week 3. Beat them week 3, so they've got the 1-0 lead, hoping that they can end up sweeping them for the season and pretty much seal up the AFC South. Could we say that?
I believe so. I believe that is a safe assumption there.
So we've got a great show for today, but Tyler, before we get into that, make sure you tell everyone how they can support the show.
If you want to support the show, go check out our merch. We have shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats, all kinds of stuff. Go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, make sure you're following us on there. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us some comments, questions. Love the interaction. If you're watching on YouTube, scroll down. That subscribe button. If it's red, click it. Turn it gray. Turn on the post notifications so you never miss when we upload a video. Share the video. We would really appreciate that. If you like the video, leave us a like. And leave us some comments. Let us know your thoughts on this game.
Also, make sure you're following us on social media. On Twitter, it's Titans_time. On Facebook, Titans Time, or Meta. On Meta, as it's now called. And on Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. I guess you haven't.
I've seen something about it, but I haven't seen enough about it for it to actually click right now when you said it.
I don't know if it's official. It seems official. I'm pretty sure that's what it's changed over to. So, the metaverse. Have you heard about it?
I have.
You're going to be going to Titans games on a virtual reality headset with everybody else that is having a virtual reality headset on, and you'll all be hanging out together in Nissan Stadium.
Fun times.
And it'll all be brought to you by Meta or Facebook, previously known as Facebook. Anyways, let's get into the general news and info for the game. If I can get the injury report pulled up here.
Now, just making sure, because you've done this before, you do actually have the latest injury report.
I've got the latest injury report. Okay,
we've
got, as of today, Thursday, Corey Blasingame, Julio Jones, Roger Saffold, T. Ertz Hart, Derrick Henry, and Josh Reynolds all did not practice. Derrick Henry just listed for a rest day, so not worried about that. Bud Dupree, Amani Hooker, Chris Jackson, Chester Rogers, Darrington Evans, and Harold Landry all were limited. And Taylor Lewan, a full participant, so that is looking good for him. And that's about it for the Titans side of the injury report. I didn't actually pay a lot of attention to the Colts. It looks like the only person that did not practice for them was Opete Kiez. And then T.Y. Hilton was limited.
He's limited. I believe Xavier Rhodes is limited.
Well, that's not listed, but no, it's not to say that.
I know
Xavier Rhodes was a full participant. He did not practice. Did not practice yesterday, but was a full participant today.
Well, he's kind of all throughout this season. I think he's been dealing with that calf injury, and it's kind of going back and forth. I mean, he's been in and out of games with it a lot. So, that's just one of their top corners. I mean, he's a guy that if he's out there and he's healthy, he can make a difference for them. But if he's constantly in and out, or if he's got that injury that's just causing him to be a step slow, that's something the Titans can be taking advantage of.
Yeah, I agree. And then, of course, if T.Y. Hilton doesn't play, that's huge because that's one less guy to cover.
Right. I mean, we didn't have to face him in.
One less guy, but
we didn't have to face him in week 3. He was out then. I believe he was on injured reserve.
Seems like he never plays against the Titans.
Usually, when he does, though, he. More times than not, he has a good game.
Yeah, so we definitely need him to miss it. He's just one of those guys, man. He's hurt more than he plays, it seems like.
I'm just hoping that the Titans, this time when they play the Colts, will have a completely healthy A.J. Brown. Julio will hopefully be able to be a full go for this game. Because week 3, going back to last year, had Colts fans like, oh, well, if so-and-so wasn't out, okay, we had top guys out in week 3. when we played them, and we still won. So it's going to be interesting to see, getting these guys back at full health, hopefully, what happens in this next game.
Yeah, I agree. Something else, moving on from the injury report, that I thought is newsworthy to add into the news segment of the podcast. Dan, I'm going to try this last name, Saleo, tweeted, he's checkmarked, by the way, verified. So, looks like the Titans have reached out to Howie and the Eagles on a possible deal for Fletcher Cox.
So, right quick, because I know you've been at work tonight, haven't really been able to check Twitter, but I have seen several people saying, even though he has that check mark, that he's not necessarily a trusted source.
Well, see, I haven't.
Right
all I know is that is what I saw as of this morning, roughly.
Right. Well, that's why I was laying it out for everyone that you've been at work, you haven't been able to check Twitter or anything, but that's what I've been seeing. And you would think that something of that magnitude, you would have other top reporters.
I agree. Yeah,
putting it out there. If it is true, hey, I'm not necessarily against it, because it just adds to our pass rush even more in our defensive line, to where we can be switching guys in and out.
I agree. I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm not necessarily against it like you.
Right.
I'm not necessarily for it either. He's got a massive $23.8 million cap hit in 2022, so I would assume it would basically be a rental player for this season.
But what would the dead money be for the Eagles?
I have no idea.
Because I believe that dead money for them would come off of his contract for what the Titans would have to pay him.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I mean, I know that he has been a good player in the past. He's had struggles this season, and he's kind of voiced some concerns. He's unhappy about his role there. I don't know. I am uncertain about it. It was interesting to see this morning that was what they were inquiring about, because I feel like there's other positions that need to be addressed. So I'm not necessarily for it. I think there's better things that they could do.
That's true. But, I mean, we've seen in the Kansas City game, if you're able to get after the quarterback enough and your defensive backs don't have to cover that long, a good pass rush can make up for not necessarily the best defensive back group. So I know you're probably thinking positions to trade for, like corner and some other positions like that.
Offensive line.
Right. But may not need a corner if you add to the pass rush and we're getting after the quarterback more and he doesn't have time. But
I agree, but you already seemingly have a pretty effective pass rush. So why not add a playmaker back into the secondary that maybe can pair along with Kevin Byard and pick some passes off when quarterbacks are throwing some rushed throws?
Yeah, and like I said, both of us were not necessarily against it. We're not necessarily for it. I mean, hey, if he comes in, okay, great. Bring a good attitude and let's get after it. But getting back to guys that are on the team, how does it make you feel seeing Harold Landry pop up on the injury report today with a hamstring injury?
I feel like it's more precautionary than anything else. I personally would bet my money on him playing.
I mean, the Titans have just, this year especially, it's like everybody's popping up with a hamstring injury. So,
yeah, I don't know. It is kind of unexpected and all of a sudden that he pops up.
Right.
Because it's not something he's dealt with this season.
And he's been having a good year.
Yeah, been having a good year. I just don't see him missing this game. This seems like too big of a game. I feel like, I don't know. I would think that if there wasn't actually something going on there, they would just put him as rest on the injury report, obviously. But I think maybe it's not that big of a deal. And they just said, okay, let's have him sit out today. Or limited. Was he limited? I can't even remember.
Yeah, he was limited.
Yeah. Let's keep him limited today and make sure that everything is fine before we move forward. And the fact that he's limited instead of being out, obviously, is a good sign. So,
right. So, I mean, let's dive into this upcoming game more. You mentioned it earlier. if the Titans win this game, it could very much wrap up the AFC South and could potentially end. I mean, I know we're still just now getting to like the halfway point of the season, but it could potentially end the Colts season because they have a lot of hard games left on their schedule.
They do, and I mean, not only that, but getting a wild card spot in the AFC this season is going to be a tough thing to do.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying it could possibly end any of their chances at getting it.
Yeah, and I believe it was on, and you're going to hear me reference this website later as well. On 538, if the Titans were to win this game against the Colts, I believe their chances of making the playoffs get boosted to 97%.
Yeah, I have seen something about that. So
and 538, like, you know, I obviously have the stat chat every week on here. Like 538 is
your go-to.
They're one of the best. They put out some of the best articles about advanced stats and stuff like that. I mean, they have their ELO rating is right up there with the DVOA that I was talking about a couple of, like, they just have great ratings,
right.
And they really have great projections for upcoming games and playoff chances and stuff like that. So I will honestly take a lot of stock in that. The only thing that I don't agree with them on is the fact that they have the Titans projected to lose to the Colts here in this next week.
Well, we will kind of get into that a little bit more later as well.
That's kind of the sentiment that's going around,
right.
Is that the Colts are they're favored here.
And it's a little crazy to me, but at the same time I can understand it. The Colts, to an extent, have been maybe hitting their stride and looking better this year since the start of the season. Wentz is back, maybe fully healthy. In their last game, he was able to move around more. So his ankles may be good to go for right now. You know, you look back at some of the teams that they've beat to get to where they're at, specifically this last one, it's a 49ers team that's been struggling this year. A 49ers team that is in probably the best division in the NFL. We've said that several times. And a 49ers team that more than likely is not going to do anything in the NFC. You know, in that game, friend of the show, Jacob Patterson, me and him were talking about this game, and he was like, oh, Wentz he was looking great in this game. Great. I'm like, I don't know what game you were watching, but if the Wentz you think looks great is the guy who had like 3 or 4 passes that got dropped that would have been picked off, like it went right through the defensive back's hands.
Not only that, but how much stock are we putting in a game where it's literally pouring rain?
Right. And a
like
guy
it's one of the sloppiest games that has been played this season.
He steps up in the pocket and the defense closes in on him and he tries a little shovel pass that they end up ruling a fumble. I mean, if he wants to keep doing those, hey, I'll take that. You know, David Long will pick that off or recover the fumble and be good to go with it. But, you know, yes, he did have, I believe, a long shot to Pittman. And he took several shots to Pittman. But some of these were underthrown. And if the 49ers defensive backs would have just turned around and played the ball versus just like mauling Pittman and getting pass interference called, like there's really no telling how many interceptions Wentz possibly would have thrown in that game. But you also have, like, their offense is clicking more. And we've seen some things that we talked about after the Titans win against them in week 3. The Colts just abandoned the run game. And Taylor was gashing us that game. I think he averaged like 6.4 yards a carry.
And he's been doing that against pretty much everybody.
Right.
So far.
I mean, going back over their last 3 games, they played the 49ers, and this is reverse order here, 49ers, Houston, Baltimore. So Baltimore, he only had 53 yards rushing. Houston, he went off 14 carries for 145 and 2 touchdowns. And then against San Francisco, 18 carries for 107 yards. So he's been hitting his stride a little bit. And the Colts are, it seems like, running some RPOs, and it's been pretty effective for them.
I mean, I don't really have anything on Jonathan Taylor other than the fact that you're not going to stop him. I don't think, honestly. I feel like if they go in with a game plan of, let me say this instead. You're not going to stop him without giving up a lot in the passing game. Is a better way to put that.
Right, yeah, I get what you're saying because
if they want him to have a lot of usage and they want him to have a good game, odds are he's going to have a good game. He's just a great player. They have a good offensive line that can put him in a good position, and as long as the defense is not completely one-sided playing the run, I mean, as long as it's balanced at worst defensively, they're going to be able to have success running the ball.
Right, and I will say, I think the Titans' defensive rankings against the run are possibly a little skewed because they're ranked 9th against the run. But you look back at the last 2 games, you have the Chiefs, who really didn't run the ball that much. I mean, they're more of a passing offense. And you have the Bills, who, they rely more on the pass. If it is runs, more times than not, Allen is the one doing more damage in their run game. So, those 2 games, you could be looking at maybe the Titans' stats being skewed some just because those teams aren't running the ball as much. And, the only thing about stopping Taylor is we may not have to stop him. The coaches may stop him. Because, say the Titans get up by 7 to 10 points again. Are the Colts just going to stop running the ball again?
I don't think they're going to make that mistake again this time because, I feel like, which I don't know, because you think about the last game and Wentz was somewhat injured. And
that's when it would have made the most sense. They weren't down by that much.
Why not lean on what you at least have that is not injured, and what is still somewhat your strongest offense? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know how I'm trying to say that there. But why go with the guy that's injured when you can run the ball with your first-round running back that's literally just...
Why go away from what was working?
Yeah, it's late. It's late. My mind's not really working great right now, but I couldn't get out the words that I wanted to explain what I was trying to say, but you kind of summed it up. Why go away from the run when your quarterback's injured?
Right, and even now, with Wentz being healthy, like if you can get that run game established and, like you said, make the Titans start trying to sell out to stop the run, it does open things up in the pass game, and with several of our defensive backs being out right now, hopefully we'll have Hooker back for this game. The Colts might be able to take advantage of that. We would really have to hope for the Titans defensive backs looking at this film from the 49ers game of the Colts and realizing, hey, if he gets in trouble, he's just going to chunk the ball downfield to Pittman and see about getting a flag thrown. So we need to make sure that we're trying to play the ball and not giving up these big chunk plays to that. Also, I believe if you were to look back at the injury report, Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor, they're both dealing with rib injuries. So, obviously, don't wish any injury on players. But the Titans defense is looking at this and thinking, if we can bruise those ribs up a little bit more, these guys aren't going to be as effective. They're not going to run as hard.
How likely is that both running backs are dealing with rib injuries?
I don't know. I just know that's what was showing on the injury report.
Both ended up with the same injury, and honestly, a vulnerable injury for a running back.
Right, because all it takes is someone standing you up and someone else coming in from the side.
Absolutely.
And they can wear those ribs out.
And that's the type of injury that I feel like would make you timid running the ball.
if it gets re-aggravated, which is why I said it may only take a couple of hits to the ribs, and maybe they're second guessing themselves, or they're thinking, oh, this hit's fixing to hurt. It just causes them to pause for a second longer than they normally would, and the run game becomes not as effective.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to ask you, who do you feel like this game is more important for?
I think it's more important for the Colts because, as you mentioned earlier, this really puts them in a strain for where, they would have to really go on a run after this game if they were to especially try to come back and win the AFC South and then have a chance at making a wild card game. If not, it really puts a strain on them, puts them in a position where they've got to win games that you never want to say this as a coach, but they're probably thinking they don't have a great chance at winning. So I think it's more important for the Colts. Titans, they're not favored anyways. They could bounce back after this. Even if the Titans drop 2 right here, like they just came off of 2 great wins, it's not the end of the world.
Right. And I agree. I do think this game, as far as going on down the line, who this game is more important for, or who a win would be more important for, would be the Colts, because it would keep them in the running for the AFC South, unfortunately, and it can keep their season alive. You can make the argument for the Titans that this game would be more important for them, or just as important, because this is their chance to sweep the Colts this year, have a tiebreaker over them if the Titans were for some reason to lose 2 divisional games. They would have the tiebreaker over the Colts, right, if it came down to that, because they would have both wins against them.
Well, I think a great way to put it is that the Titans certainly have extra incentives to want to really put the Colts down right here, but ultimately, in the standings wise, this is more important for the Colts.
Well, and as you mentioned earlier, the Titans are not favored in this game, so really, people are kind of messing up a little bit, because the Titans, coming off of 2 big wins, yes, they're going into a divisional game against a Colts team that they're always wanting to beat and get the one up on. But now you're adding just a little bit more fuel to the fire. Even though Vrabel and them may say, oh, well, we're not paying attention to that, we're just going week by week. They're looking at this and they're like, we're coming off of this, and they have us as underdogs again. They have us losing again. That's just going to fuel this Titans team even more, I feel like, to want to go out there and prove people wrong again.
What is so interesting to me is that these Vegas odds makers, so most of the time they will try to take advantage of bias from the public when a team is on a roll, and especially when a team is coming off of a game where they absolutely blew out the spread, like the Titans just did against the Chiefs. They will take advantage of that and set the line a little bit extra in favor of that team that just is coming off of the big wins, because there's a lot of public, excitement around that team, and so that could lead to more bets being on that side. And obviously, if there's a little bit of bias swaying towards that team, but that's not actually the probability of them covering that spread, then that sort of shifts things a little bit more in Vegas's favor. But it seems like to me in this scenario, they're taking advantage of the fact that people view the Titans as sort of a phony. I think that they know that in the national view, the Titans are seen as a fluke. They aren't going to keep up this, which granted, they're not going to keep blowing teams out like they just did the Chiefs, right? But they're not going to continue to win games. They can't beat the Colts. I think they're taking advantage of that, and I think that is shown in this line.
It very well could be, and since we're mentioning the line, mentioning Vegas, I think this is a perfect time to transition into our best bets segment presented by DraftKings.
Absolutely. DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, they are practically giving away money, and they have been for the past couple of weeks. If you need a big win, DraftKings Sportsbook, once again an official sports betting partner of the NFL, they've got you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. If they do win it, you win $200 in free bets, and then you're golden from there, right?
You hope, anyway.
You hope. If the sportsbook's not available in your state yet, DraftKings is not going to leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Just bet $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets if they win. You win with if they win, you win with promo code TPPN. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, must be 21 or older. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, as you mentioned, Colts favored by 2.5 points. Was 2 earlier today, so it's moving even more in their favor. Which is all the more reason, not betting advice, to jump on the Titans side here.
Well, before we really get into that, you just read that awesome offer that DraftKings is doing. I don't know if you remember this or not, but since DraftKings is giving out that offer for new customers, we're kind of going through and looking at the upcoming games for this week.
We did that last week, and both of our games won that we did.
They did, and as you mentioned, this is not betting advice, so do not take what we say to heart. But looking at the games coming up, if I was going to bet on one of these, you have the Rams taking on the Texans. You best believe I'm taking the Rams in that game. And I don't know if you've looked through to see any other games.
I have not, but I'm gonna steal your.
I have drafted.
I don't need to see any. I don't need to see any more. Bills over the Dolphins.
I was hoping that you were going to say that one because that was the other one that really stuck out to me.
That defense is going to absolutely just destroy Tua.
Well, you have the Bills who their last game was losing to the Titans. They've had their bye week. You know that they're coming out, going to be facing a division rival. They are hot right now and ready to just destroy a team.
Yeah.
So, I that was the other one. If you would have took the Rams versus the Texans, I was going to go with the Bills game.
I think those are two games you can. Those are solid picks. Like any given Sunday, obviously in the NFL, anything can happen. But those are just about as sure as you can get.
I agree. It's just like the last picks that we had.
Yeah.
Again, not betting advice, but we were right on.
Good way to get $200 in free bets right there. So let's get into our best bets for this week. I'm sitting at 3 out of 10, 30%. You're sitting at 5 out of 10, 50%, which you're going to have to hit a little bit better numbers than that to be considered profitable, because I did go back and look at actually what you need to be considered profitable, which have yours all been pretty much the typical odds, minus 110, where DraftKings is taking out their little piece of the pie there?
It's kind of ranged on some. I think I had the Mahomes throwing one interception that I think was like plus 115.
Well, there you go. So that actually would probably help you out a little bit there. But it was bothering me that I didn't know the percentage. 52.4%. Anything better than that you're hitting. If you're betting on those typical minus 110, minus 115, that's what's going to keep you profitable.
So what you're saying is I'm not far off.
You're not far off, but you're not profitable yet. I, on the other hand, am what keeps the sports books in business. So I like a same game parlay. Titans alternate spread plus 7.5, and the alternate total over 44.5 for minus 110 actually. So
okay. So, you're going to have 2 parlays this week?
Actually, my next one is...
Oh, whoa, don't. Whoa,
Okay.
Because I was looking around at, different bets for this game. As you know, and as our viewers know, I write down 4 just in case we were to end up with the same one. You're going with the Titans alternate spread. This will kind of give away later in the show, but I'm going with the Titans money line.
Okay.
Plus 130
Okay.
right now. And, that could change before game time, but I don't know. I'm still feeling good about this game. I feel like the Titans are going to take care of business this week. So, and, like you said, at plus 130, that hits. You're making some money there.
Yeah, you make a little bit of extra, then, typically, you're not even doubling your money on most of these bets. You're getting close.
Right.
In that case, you're doing a little bit better than doubling your money.
Right.
So I was looking around. I found one that's actually in those up in the better odds range there as well. I don't know if you saw the weekly special that DraftKings was offering on this game.
I did not.
But the special that's being offered is for Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor combined if they rush for over 199.5 yards plus 150.
Oh, man.
So
I kind of wish that I would have looked at that. Obviously, you going first, it would be your best bet. But that may be one that I might have to put a little bit of money on. Not going to lie.
Listen, that's one that Derrick Henry can get by himself. So a little bit of help from Jonathan Taylor is all he needs.
So, man, this is tough. But I am going to go with Henry over 102.5 rushing yards. That's what it was the last time I checked it. It may have changed. I'm actually going to go look at that now because, we want to give people the most current.
Yeah, the latest line there.
And
I think that's a reasonable number, honestly, for him to hit.
I think so too. Let's see here. It's now up to over 103.5 at minus 115. So, I'll change this here so it's actually correct.
You're actually changing something to be not in your favor. That's
look,
not common for you.
This Colts defense, they've only allowed four times for a running back to rush for over 100 yards on them. Care to take a guess at what all running backs have done that?
Derrick Henry.
Yep.
All in this season, right?
No, not all in this season.
Okay.
But over the last couple of years, there's only been 4 times that they've allowed a running back to go over 100 yards on them.
Derrick Henry. Multiple times?
Yes.
Okay.
Derrick Henry all 4 times. I was testing your knowledge there.
I don't know. I thought that might be the answer, but I was like,
yes.
Talking about all in this season, I'm gonna sound really dumb if I pick Derrick Henry and they've only played him once this season.
But no, it was Derrick Henry every time. So
I didn't completely hear all the words in your sentence there, and that's why I was trying to put it together. I was like,
well, hopefully everyone on the podcast actually heard them all, and I didn't turn too far away from them.
I'm telling you, it's late, and my mind is not really working correctly.
And I do want to see what you think about these other 2 that I wrote down. These 2 will not be counting. I was looking at the over 51 points.
I like the over.
Talking to a friend of the show, Jacob Patterson, he says there's no way it hits the over. And we'll get into this when we get into our quick hitters later on, and you'll see why he says that. But he did not like the over for this game. But the other bet that I was looking at, possibly going with, and it's actually still the same, is Jonathan Taylor over 68.5 rushing yards.
That is just an extremely low number to me. I was actually looking at your paper over there, and I was like, does that say 68?
It does. But part of the reason for that is going back and looking at the Colts, or Jonathan Taylor's stats for this year. Week 1, 56 yards. Week 2, 51. Week 3, 64. Then 103, 53, 145, 107. So he's kind of all over the place. And, I mean, really it would depend on how much the Colts want to use him. I mean, they have that running back by committee. So all it takes is on his touches, if a team is able to contain him that game, then you're not really looking at that low of a number.
Right. I mean, it's one of those where you have to determine what you think the game script is going to be. If you think it leans into him having those extra carries, then that's a great number to be at, 68.5. But, I mean, there is obviously that possibility that he only sees between 10, 12 carry in that range. And in that scenario, he may not hit that. I mean, he may be around 50 roughly. So,
but I will say, last time against the Titans, 10 carries, 64 yards. Maybe he gets that 11th carry and, he hits it. So, but I'm interested to get into our Stat Chat segment and see what you have for us this week.
That's right. It's time for the Stat Chat.
I'm about to say, come on, get it right.
Not Snapchat. The Stat Chat. Time to get into the numbers this week. So, I told you I was going to mention 538 again. And there was an article written on there by Josh Hermsmeyer. The title of the article is Derrick Henry is Scary. And
Halloween's coming up.
That's true.
And the Titans, we didn't even hit on this. They're going to be wearing their icy whites. Joked around with Jacob on this, saying the reason they're wearing them is because they're going to be absolutely haunting the Colts after they sweep them this year.
So you're starting early on the dad jokes. The one takeaway that I had from this that I wanted to include in the Stat Chat, or not the one takeaway, the thing that stood out to me most, I had several takeaways from this, but on the league-leading 41 rushing plays since 2016, in which Henry utilized a stiff arm, he has gained 460 yards after contact and averaged over 15 yards per run.
Okay, I got to take your phone and look at this. I mean, you can go ahead and dive into this.
Derrick Henry has, I feel like there's just a lot there to unpack. Derrick Henry, since 2016, has used a stiff arm in 41 plays. On those 41 plays, he's got 460 yards after contact, averaging over 15 yards.
That is crazy. Which, granted, you have his 99-yard run that factors into that. So, obviously, that helps out quite a bit. But that's a crazy number.
What's also funny is like the 15 stiff arms from that play still only counts as one play where he used a stiff arm. But, it's over 15 yards per run when he's using a stiff arm.
And you're looking at
roughly 11 yards after contact per play.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to figure that up right quick. That is insane.
So that really just leans into the article title. Like, he is scary. And when he uses that stiff arm, there's not much you can do to stop him.
No, there's not. And, guys are playing for that stiff arm more now, and it's just causing them to get run over.
Yeah, he knows when to use it, is what I think is what this stat tells a lot about, because, obviously you could see a guy that's used it on, 100 plays, and he's not necessarily using it in the right times. He's probably overusing it, and he's not getting as much efficiency out of it. Like, Derrick Henry knows, it seems, when is the right time to use his signature stiff arm.
Well, and just when he chooses to use that stiff arm, it's so effective. And he's really built it up over the past couple years where he's made defenders respect it. So much so that now they're focusing in on that because when they're going to tackle him, they're like, he's going to go for the stiff arm. And he's thought about that, and he's like, okay, now that you're doing that, I'm adding a new weapon to my arsenal. And
which is called, I'm just going to run you over.
Right, I'm just going to put my shoulder in your chest and run you over, Darius Leonard, and go on from there. So now guys have to think about, they truly have to make a business decision of, do I want to take the hit to the chest from his shoulder, or do I want to take the chance of possibly being put on a poster or trading card where he's stiff-arming me?
Yeah. But it's not often that you see an article about the Titans on 538, so had to take advantage of that whenever I saw that pop up on there this morning.
I like that. I think that's a good stat chat for this week.
And the fact that Derrick Henry is getting some recognition here from, what I think is a really, I don't technically know, I guess, some media source. I don't technically know what you would classify them as, but they do a lot of good work. So now let's get into the quick hitters, because I feel like I got some good ones this week. I'm going to catch up on bowl predictions.
We'll see about that.
I feel like I have my score prediction in a pretty good place. But obviously first, keys to the game. So I'll let you go first on that.
Key to the game, it's going to be simple. You're going to have to stop this Colts run game. Okay. Shut Jonathan Taylor down early. Don't let him really get going, because I feel like when he gets going, it just opens up the Colts offense even more. And I think that's where the focus is going to have to be.
I'm going to counter that and say that I think they need to get pressure on Wentz. I feel like if you can put a lot of pressure on him, he's going to make mistakes, and then it won't matter what else happens. Because
we definitely need to get pressure. Just adding on to that, we need to get pressure up the middle. We don't need to open up lanes for him to run straight up the field, because let's face it, he's going to be more mobile this game than he was in the first game. And that could make a big difference for all of this.
Yep.
And now we'll jump into our bold predictions and score predictions. Got a long list to read again, but we love it.
Like to hear that.
I mean, it's our TTP takes.
There we go.
And first, starting off, my amazing wife, Carrie, again. Her score prediction is 27-24, Titans winning. Her bold prediction is that Jonathan Taylor will have under 50 yards rushing. So, I mean, I feel like that's a decent bold prediction, considering what he's done over his last couple games and considering what he could have done last time they played the Titans.
Hey, it's a whole 18.5 yards under what Vegas has it set at, so.
Right, I think it counts. Then from Instagram, Titans Torch, and you can go check them out, follow them on Instagram at Titans Torch. They gave a score prediction of 30-27, Titans winning. And I did ask all of them who, when I put out the post, who this game was more important for. And it was very much, it's important for both teams, but when you really break it down, the Colts are the team that would need a win more right now. Another take from Instagram, Titans Focus. You can go follow them at Titans Focus on Instagram. Score prediction, 28-24, Titans winning. And they said that AJ and Henry were going to play big roles in a win for the Titans. And I guess this was kind of their bold prediction. They say that Henry is going to hit the 1,000-yard mark for rushing yards this season in this game.
Okay.
I think he's 130 something away, something like that. I'm not sure exactly. Then hopping over to Facebook, we have Jules, as y'all call it, and score prediction 24-17 Titans. I'm going to save Jacobs for last. Friend of the show, Spencer, score prediction 34-27 Titans. Bold prediction, AJ and Julio both go over 110 yards and have a touchdown each. And Drake coming in with a score prediction of 35-21 Titans. His bold prediction is Jonathan Taylor under 100 yards rushing, and Henry 100 plus yards in the air. So I guess Drake's seen Henry throw that touchdown pass, and now he's saying he's going to throw for 100 yards. No, Drake, if you are listening and made it this far, we know you mean receiving yards there. And honestly, that is especially combining these two things, that's a very bold take.
And recall that this week's competition is for the
CJ2K.
CJ2K bobblehead. Just kidding. Don't let Tyler have a panic attack.
I'm good.
Because of me trying to give away his precious bobbleheads.
I'm good. Now, the last one that I need to mention before getting into ours, friend of the show already mentioned, Jacob Patterson, score prediction. He says 17-10 with the Colts winning. And his exact words to me in our messages back and forth is that this is the lock of the millennium, that the Colts are going to win this game. And his bold prediction is Titans under 250 total yards of offense. He thinks the Colts defense is just going to come out on fire and completely shut down anything the Titans are trying to do. And that's why whenever I mentioned that over 51 points, he was like, no, there's no way. He was like, Colts defense.
I don't know. I disagree with there. I think there will be more score than that. My score prediction is 28-27. Little suspense there, with the Titans winning. And my bold prediction is that Derrick Henry will score a touchdown on a run over 20 yards utilizing his signature stiff arm.
Okay, so he has to use the stiff arm.
It has to be over 20 yards, and it has to be a touchdown.
I can go with that.
That's very specific.
It is, and that's why it's easy to go with, because I'm like, you can't really argue it, because he hasn't necessarily used the stiff arm as much this year. So, I'll go with that. And I do want to point out that I believe when the schedule come out, we were predicting the season. We had the Titans and Colts splitting. Both of us did. And I think that we both had the Colts winning the one at home.
Right.
You may have had the one where the Colts won in Nashville and the Titans win in Indy, because that's the way it was last year.
I would think that that's the way I would have went, because it seems like the Colts always win in Nashville.
So, either way, we both had them splitting. Like I said, I had the Colts winning the one in Indy in our season predictions. But we're in the season now where these two teams are at. I'm going with the Titans winning this game. And, sorry, Jacob, I don't see this being a low-scoring game. I think these two teams are going to get into a shootout. And I'm going to go with the Titans 31, Colts 30.
31-30. So we both think it's going to be a one-point game there.
Yeah, and my bold prediction is going to be that the Titans force 4 total turnovers, their defense.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, that worked for me.
I don't think they came close to that this season. I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting a game where they
I'm trying to think, and
I mean, they
rattle my
had
brain.
the 2 fumbles in the Chiefs game,
They had 2 fumbles and an interception.
2 fumbles in, so they were close. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that's not bold. I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, most of the time for teams,
four turnovers, like you're definitely
It is
winning the game.
it is a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, most of the time, I mean, even 3 is a lot
absolutely
in a
yeah.
game. So,
Yep, I agree with you there.
so
No.
I think that's
No.
all I really have.
No
For
contest
this.
for me. I'm not. I'll let you have that one. I don't think you'll get it. I feel like I got a good shot at mine. So I think I'm gonna.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. If that's, I would love to see it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
would.
Me too. Because it really sets up for like an exciting moment if my bold prediction comes true. Because most of them, it's like you have the whole course of the game, and you're like, are they going to hit this? Like mine is a one
Right.
moment type of thing. So I'm excited to see if it happens.
But you could be waiting the whole game for it to happen.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's all I've got. I don't know if you got anything else.
I don't believe so. I'm looking forward to this game and hoping the Titans can sweep the Colts this year.
Me too.
All right then.
Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a rating, all of that good stuff. This has been Titans Time, and as always,